Hi everyone. So in this video, we are going to cover next topics in the backend. So yesterday we covered about the Express.js, how we can build the server with the Express.js. We covered about the HTTP methods. What are these HTTP methods? What they specify each and every HTTP method. Then we covered the what is REST API and what is API and how we can document our all the REST API routes. That is what we have covered. Then we have covered the HTTP status code. That these are a three-digit number that helps us to know the situation of what server is saying or what is the problem. Whether it's a problem in server, whether it's the problem in the client. If it's 200, then it means everything is okay. So we have different status code for each and every particular request that happens on the particular either client or the backend. Now, in this video, we are going to implement testing the APIs in Postman. Now, what does that mean is that as a backend developer, you will be working in a big team where you will be either a front end developer or a backend developer. Now, if you are a front end developer or if you are a backend developer, then just let me first run this index.js. So this is what we created yesterday about all the routes. So now this is one API that we created that on the particular route 300, and let me run this so that node index.js server is running on port number 3000. Then I can go on localhost 3000, and here I can see the hello world here. Okay, which means ki I'm hitting on this particular route, and I'm getting the hello world in return. So now what if now as a backend developer, how am I going to test whether the API I have created is working or not? So as this is a get API, right? This is a get API, so I can test it in the browser by just writing the API. But what if I want to test the post API? So I told you yesterday that I cannot post data from here. Okay, I cannot post data from here. This is the part of the front end. कि from the front end, the data will come on this particular API. Now, I am a backend developer, right? I am a backend developer. So how would I send data? So do I have to create a front end for it first? Yeah, I will create a front end, then I will send the data to this particular route, and I will check whether this is working or not. But this is not the way that we do. So as a backend developer, when you will be working in a team, you will be working on some tools known as the Postman, that will be working on this particular tool. This particular Postman tool is help us to test these particular APIs, right? So in the same way, we can test all these API, put, post, get, whether they are working correct or not. Okay. So let's understand what is this Postman, and let's see how it solves our problem to test our particular APIs. Again repeating why we are testing it, because we are a backend developer. If I want to test this particular post API, then I have to get data, right? Because post is to send data, then I have to get the data. Now for that, I have to create a front end, and from the front end, I have to send data. But I am a backend developer. I don't know about anything about the front end. So for that, we can test this from a tool known as the Postman, where we can send the data to this particular API. In this way, we can test all this: either get, either put, either listen, either post, either delete, all the HTTP methods. This is about the testing APIs in Postman. So what is Postman? Postman is one such tool. So you can sign up here. So you will just click on this and you can sign up here, sign in here. Okay, and then it will ask you to download. It will download you a download. You can click on download Postman. It will download you a Postman for Windows 64-bit, right? And then after that, you will have a folder on your desktop known as the Postman. So if you click on it, you will see app like this, a app like this. Okay, this is the app, right? So what is happening right now is that it is in like black mode. So I'm using the black mode, but this is the one tool that I'm that I will use to test our APIs. Okay, so what this is how it looks like. This will be empty. This part will be empty because I have created a lot of APIs. So I test it here. So here you can create a folders, and then you can test all those APIs, right? This is the particular tool that we are going to use. What you have to do is you have to just go to the Postman, download Postman on the Google. You will download this app, and then it will ask you to sign in. And after sign in this particular app, you will see a window like this. Okay. Now let's see how we can test our APIs. So you will see something like collections, environment, history here, and you will see a plus button here, create a new collection. Or what you can do is you can just go up here and you can click on plus this. So it will open a untitled request, right? Untitled request. Now let's see what is this. Okay. In this particular input box, what you can do is you can, whatever the API you have created, you can paste it here, and you can test whether this particular API is working or not, whether this particular API is working or not. So right now my server is running on the port number 3000. So what I can do is I can just copy this, and I can test it in the Postman. So I will paste it here. Okay. And now I have to specify what is this particular which HTTP method this particular post API is using. So as we know, this is the get API that we have defined in our backend. Right. This is the get API. Right. This is the get API. So I am using the get method. You can change this from any post, put, patch, delete. All these are the methods. So I'm using the get method, and then after that you are click on send. So as soon as you will see as soon as you will send a click on send button, you will see in the down the data that is coming back from this particular request, which is the hello world, which is the same that we are seeing here. Okay, but this particular tool will help us to test the APIs. Now, what is happening is right now is that you are hitting this particular API, this particular get API, and as soon as I click on send, our request will hit, and whatever the data we will get from this particular API, whatever the response we will get from this particular API, we can see it on our Postman in this particular down below. Now we also know that we have one post method on this particular route also. Okay, that we have created one post method on this particular route. So what I will do, I will change this to post. Now I have changed this to post, and now we all know that now we can send data to this particular route also. So now let's see what data we will send. Let's click on send button, and now you are seeing you are hitting a post API. Okay, you are hitting a post API. This we can't do in browsers. Why? Because a get API you can always test it in the browsers. Okay, you can test a get API in the browsers. Why? Because we have to just fetch the data. We have to just fetch the data from the get API. But in post, we can we have to post data and we get the data. Okay. So I can't test it in the browsers. That's why we have tools like Postman that where we can test all these types of data, all these types of API, whether it's a post. Now if I change this to put, you will see a so we have created a put also. Okay, a put method also. You are hitting a put API. Let's see what we will. So I click on send, and now you are hitting a put API. Okay, which means we are hitting this particular route. Okay, and in return we are getting this particular thing. This is how we can test the our APIs. This is how we are going to test our APIs without the front end in this particular Postman. There are many other tools like there in Sophia, there like inbuilt tools in the node. Sorry, there are extensions in the VS Code that you can use, but the Postman is very uh, popular, and like I use it to test my APIs. Okay, so you can select any method which you have defined in your particular server, the APIs you have created, and in that you can just test it from here. So now you can send the data from here also. So like in the post, what you can do is you can just send data from here. How we can send data? We have different methods to send the data. Either I can send a form data, either I can send this particular xww form URL encoded data. I can either send the raw data. So I click on here, and I will click on text. So in raw data we have options like you can see raw means कि you are just sending a data, but that data have many options. कि either that data is a text, or whether it's a JSON object, or whether it's a HTML, whether it's a JavaScript. So I am just sending a text. Okay, so I am just sending a text. कि I am sending text data from the postman. Okay. Okay. Now if I click on send, what you will see you are seeing you are hitting a post API. Now, this particular data I am sending on the backend. Now, how can I test this whether this data is coming or not? What I can do is console.log, console.log, and we all know that this particular request header is for whatever the request is coming, whatever the request is coming. So we can check this request data. Plus, this request data has many headers, has many parameters like the headers parameter, the body parameter. So whenever we are sending in the data, whenever we are sending the data from like whenever we are hitting this particular API, whenever we are sending a data, we always send data in the body part of the request, in the body part of the request. So what we do is request.body, request.body. Now if I so we have to run that again because we have changed the server. So node. Now, what I will do is I will just click on send again, and I am getting the response. Plus, I am getting the undefined here. Why? As you can see, undefined is coming, which means the particular data is not coming. Remove the let's remove the this, and test it now. Again, I am getting the undefined. I am sending the text data. I think it should be in text form. Okay, I think I have to give a parameter like test data. Let's now what I will do here is I will send it again. I am getting undefined again. Okay, so the problem is that we will discuss that later because that is the upcoming topic. But like I'm sending this data, right? I'm sending this data from the postman, and now it is getting the. Let me run this again. Index.js. Server is running on port number. Now if I click on send, you will get a undefined here. Why is getting undefined here is that, just remember for now, we will discuss this later. Express itself doesn't know what type of data you are sending. It can either be a text, it can either be in HTML form, it can either be in JSON form. So Express doesn't know ki what type of data you are sending. So that is why we are getting undefined, which means Express is not able to understand कि भाई the data you are sending, it is in normal text, or it is in the JSON form, or it is in the any other form. For that we have to use one middleware. What is middleware? We will discuss that later, but just for now understand that middleware is something that we have to use कि भाई in very simple terms middleware is something that कि जो आपकी request आ रही है, check this request or do something with this request, and then after that forward this request to this particular route. ठीक है, as simple as that. So middleware क्या होता है, we will discuss that later, don't worry about that. But just for now we have to tell the express कि भाई data we are sending, it is in the text form. That is why we have to use this particular code line on our in our index.js file. This particular code line in our index.js file, what it says is कि भाई the express now can understand all the data that is in the text form getting from the front end or any other application. Okay, so now if I save this and if I run this again, node on index.js, now if I send click on send again, you are setting the why we are getting the this because we are sending from here. But now in the console you can see I'm sending a text data from the postman. Now we are getting the data. So before it was getting before we was getting the undefined. Why? Because we did not tell the express कि data you are getting, data that is we are sending is in the simple text form. But now here we specified कि भाई express we are uh, the data we are sending can maybe in the text form. So please understand that text form. Now whenever we send data, what we've done is that console.log request.body, and we know that the data will come in the body of the request. So now we are consoling that particular thing, and in the response we are sending this particular, you are hitting the post API. As simple as that. This is the how we can use how we can use the postman to check our particular API that we have created, right? Let me close this now, and this is the let me clear this. Okay, so we have done the testing APIs in Postman. Now let's understand this second topic, that is the routing in Express. What is routing in Express? Routing in Express refers how an application endpoints respond to client requests. It determines how application responds to various HTTP requests such as get, post, put, made a specific route path, and HTTP method. Now, in very simple terms, we have already discussed this. I have just written it so that whenever you will revise it, you will just get the idea. Uh, this is nothing that it's just in simple terms that we have to define routes. That is known as the routing in Express. As simple as that. Now, defining routes in Express is known as the routing in Express. Okay. So what does this mean is that this is one route that we have defined. This is one route. Localhost 3000 slash is one route that we have defined कि भाई अगर कोई इस route पे कोई मेरे को रिक्वेस्ट मारेगा तो मुझे उसको रिस्पॉन्स में एक हेलो वर्ल्ड भेजना है. ठीक है. इन अ different in another way, what we can do is app.get, and I can define here another route. Let's say a books. Okay, and I can create a function here now. Function request dot response dot send on dot send. You will get the all books. So now this is one route we have created. One route with the slash dot books. Now whatever the request will come to this particular route slash dot books, our response will be sent you will get the all books. Why? Because this is a get request. This is a get request. We can fetch data only from this. So now, like, we don't have any data till now, like a books data. So like we could not send that. But imagine if you have a database and all the data is stored in that particular database. So what we can do is we can fetch the data from the database, and we can send this particular data to this particular to the any front end whomsoever is requesting the books data. So now if I run that again, node index.js, and now if I go to the local host, now on this particular route I'm getting the hello world. But now if I go to the books route, you will get all the books. This is known as the routing in Express. You just have to define the routes, and you can just write a books route. Now you are just defining a route here. This is how I can define any route. App dot get books, or with book ID. Okay. If someone comes on this particular route, I will return a rest dot send. What I will do, I will return a single book, like a with a single particular book ID. So like we don't have the any book data. So right now I will just send you text. You will get the single single book. Okay. Single. So this is one just route we have defined. Now if I go back, where as I have changed the server, so I will have to run that again. Books. Now if I do this any book ID, what I will get, you will get a single book. Okay. So this is just we have defined the routes here. We have defined the routes here. If someone hits on this particular route, this will get. If someone comes on this route and asks like hit this particular route, then this will get. If someone comes on this particular route, then this will get. Okay, this is like a routing in Express. As simple as that. This is the routing in Express. So basic concepts of routing is a route is a URL pattern that application will respond to, such as dot slash dot users or dot product. We have already seen like these methods define the type of operation to be performed on a resource, such as get, retrieve, post, create, put, update, delete, remove. We have already discussed that. By what are these get, post? We can define the API routes with this particular HTTP methods as the get, post, put, or update, delete. Right. Third is these are the functions that executed when the route is meshed. They receive a request and response objects and can perform operations such as querying a database, प्रोसेसिंग डाटा, सेंडिंग आ रिस्पॉन्स बैक टू द क्लाइंट. ठीक है. क्या कह रहा है ये थर्ड पॉइंट पे, क्या कह रहा है कि भाई अगर इसके पास कोई रिक्वेस्ट आती है, नाउ यू विल वी कैन डिफाइन एनी फंक्शन हियर. वी कैन डिफाइन एनी फंक्शन. व्हाट इफ वी हैव अ books data here. So what I will do, I will create I will write a logic, some kind of logic in this particular function ki by first fetch all the books data from the database database, right? And now I will send all the data that I have fetched from the database, and then I will send this. So this is what I am saying. This is the third point. What it is saying is that कि भाई you can perform operations such as squaring a database, processing data, and sending a response back to the client. ठीक है? This is the things we can do in this particular function. Right now we don't have any books data, or right now we have don't have any logic of this particular application, right? So we are just sending a simple text. You will get all the data. ठीक है? But imagine if we have some kind of logic, or imagine if we have some kind of database that we have stored uh, books data in that particular database, that then we have to first fetch the data, and then we can send this on this particular thing, right? This is routing in the express. So this is the example of routing. You can just see it is like very simple. We have just whatever things we have wrote here. This is very same. Okay, if someone is on, someone hits on this particular get, and then you will get a hello world. If someone comes on the dot about, you will get the dot about some bits form submitted. Okay, like all these things you can see. So this is like an example of routing. Okay. The next concept is the route parameters. Route parameters are the named URL segments used to capture values at specific positions in the URL. These values can be accessed by the rec.params. Okay. Now I have already told you that then there is one method, there is one parameter rec.body. So whenever we send data from the front end, we can always get that data from the .body part. Okay. So we have seen that we have console that particular data by using rec.body. Okay. In the similar way, it define here कि भाई we can define our particular route. So let's see what this is. Uh, app dot get, and imagine I have books route, and then there is a single book ID. We have already defined this. We have already defined in the upper K and the upper. Let's remove this so that we have a clear understanding. So books. Now what is this particular thing? I will tell you, but let's first create the function request dot response, or I can just send the rest dot send. You will get a book data. Okay. Now request parameters are the named URL segments used to capture values at specific positions. Okay. The one option is that we can just go on this particular route books, and we can fetch data of all the books. But what if I want to fetch the data of a particular book I need? Okay. So I will have to get the ID of that particular ID of that particular book, right? So what I can do is I can define the dynamic routing here. Dynamic routing means I can define. Let's see. Let's see. What I will do is books.books ID dot one. Okay, you will get a single book. Now it's okay. So I have not running the index.js. .js. Okay. Now if I refresh this books, so you will get all the books. Now in the user's ID. So what we are just doing here is that, let's see what, like, see, this is like a dynamic routing. So we have defined the books here, and now we can define anything here that we have requested for. So here I want a particular book ID, right? So what I can do is, imagine that there is a database that consists of books there, and you have the ID defined for each and every book. Like book one is have ID one, book two has something ID two. Okay, what I can do is I have defined a dynamic routing, which means कि now whatever the book ID I will get, I can define it here, and I will get this particular specific book from the database. So as you can see, cannot get books. I think why is that? Books book not id. Let's see what we are getting. So how we can fetch this particular dynamic route that we have defined here. So till here till here we will write in this URL, right? But after that, after this two dots, it is known as a dynamic route. Now we can define a dynamic routing here. Key whatever the things we are write, whatever the route, whatever the book ID we will write in our particular browser, or whatever the book ID whatever the particular book we want to fetch, we can define that particular ID in this particular route, right? So what I can do is book ID. How we can do that is the request dot params, request that params, and console.log id, request dot params and then book id. So whatever the book ID we have declared, let's name it capital letter. Okay, this is, as you can see, we have defined it here. Okay, let's see what thing we will get. So I have to refresh that again. Index.js. I will refresh this. I think something error is coming. Server is running on port number. If I go on books, you will get all the books. But if I go on one, okay, so very stupid problem that I was doing is that, as you can see, every route starts with the slash. Okay, every route starts with the slash. But here you can see I have not defined the route. That is why if I will go on this particular route now, it will say that it is not working. So now it will work. So it's a very like a very bad route. So now I have to refresh that. I have to run that server again. So node index.js, right? And now if I refresh this, you will see you will get a book data. And now in the console, you will get one. Why is that one? Because this is a dynamic routing that we are doing. Now we have defined a one here. So till here, it is the same. But after that, we have defined the one here. So now what I'm getting is I'm getting that particular route with the request.params.book ID, whatever the thing I have defined it here. Okay, now if I write here two, you will get a 2 here. You will, in the request you are getting the 2 here. Okay, send this dot send. You will get a book ID with, you will get a data with book ID, and I can just send the book ID also. So ID also. Okay, so now if you refresh this, if I refresh this, okay, so I have to like refresh this again. Let me remove this also, console log index.js. Okay, so now if I refresh this again, what you will see, you will get a book data with the book ID 2. Now if I change this to 1, you will get a book ID 1. Okay, now this is like a dynamic routing that we are performed here. If I write here 5, so like you can get the particular book, so we can define the this particular dynamic routing. Okay, this is known as the route parameters. Okay, so routing in Express.js is a fundamental concept that allows you to define how your application responds to a different HTTP request at specific routes. As simple as that. So the things we have done is we have defined a particular route books. You will get all the books. Here we define dynamic routing, okay, as a parameter. So we are getting that particular ID that we are getting, that we write in the URL, but the request params. Okay, but in the post method, that if we want to get the body that we are sending in that particular request, then we can get that body with the request.body. Okay, so these are the different parameters. Okay, the next thing we are going to learn is the middleware in express.js. Now let's understand what I was talking before, what is that particular middleware that we talked about. Okay, in simple terms, middleware functions are the functions that run between a receiving a request from the client and sending a response back to the client, right? Client sending a response back to the client. These are used to process requests, handle errors, perform other operations. इन सिंपल टर्म्स कि भाई जो रिक्वेस्ट आ रही है उसको आने से पहले आई वॉन्ट टू चेक समथिंग विद दैट पर्टिकुलर रिक्वेस्ट, आई वॉन्ट टू डू समथिंग विद दैट पर्टिकुलर रिक्वेस्ट. ठीक है. ना वॉट इट कैन बी यूज केसेस, इट कैन बी ऑथेंटिकेशन, ऑथराइजेशन, पार्सिंग रिक्वेस्ट बॉडी, सर्विंग स्टेटस, एयर हैंडलिंग. ठीक है. इन सिंपल मीन्स इट्स लाइक का कि भाई अगर आप मेरे घर पे, एक बहुत सिंपल टर्म्स में, अगर आप मेरे घर पे आ रहे हो तो बिफोर एंटरिंग इन माई हाउस, before entering in my house, just scan your thumbprint, scan your thumbprint, authenticate yourself कि whether you are a authenticated person or not. ठीक है. जब scan your thumbprint, तो before entering into your house, you like before entering in the house, you scan your thumb, and if the person is authenticated, then you can enter the house. In the same way, middlewares are the same as those, or as those, like a thumb scanners, right? What they do, like, this is just example, thumb scanner is just example, but what the basic function is that ki bhai, before coming to the particular route, before asking for a data, I just want to check something with you. Either we can do authentication, either we can pass the request bodies, we will see what all these things is. But just for the simple terms कि भाई आ रहे हो तो आने से पहले आई वांट टू चेक यू, आई वांट टू डू समथिंग विद यू. ठीक है. देन आप जा सकते हो. ठीक है. This is like a simple example. So middle function are the functions that run between a receiving request from the client, sending a response to the client. They are used to process requests, handle errors, perform other operations. Let's see what does that mean. ठीक है. Now here here the doubt we were getting is that ki we were not able to get the body. ठीक है. We were getting the undefined, as we know. Then we added something as the express.text, which means we are telling the express ki bhaiya, you may be receiving a text as a data, so please allow that, but if you can see, we have written this in the app.use. What is that? This is a middleware that we are using. App.use is like a function that allows all middleware to function in our particular text file, like in our particular server. So express.text is like a middleware. It's like a middleware. That is why we have put this middleware in the top of, like, before all of these requests, before all of these routes. Why is that? Because a request, when the request will come, it will first go to this particular middleware, then this particular middleware will do its thing, and then after that it can go to all these requests, it can go to all these routes. So that is why we were getting the data. Before that we were getting the undefined. Why? Because what express.text do is that it parse the bodies, so I am sending the text data, but as we know ki express doesn't know ki bhai what type of data we are getting, because express itself can't parse the data. Parse means ki itself cannot identify. Parse means ki it itself cannot identify. So we have to tell him ki bhaiya, whatever the request is coming, I am adding this middleware express.text कि भाई जो whatever the request is coming, you parse that particular data into text. You parse that particular data into text. If it is coming in a text form, if someone is sending data in the text form, then identify that data in the text form and you parse that data in the text form, and then you can just go to any of these routes. So this is like a middleware. Middleware middleware This is like a middleware. ठीक है. This is like a middleware that we use. As simple as that. ठीक है. This is one such middleware. What is the other middleware we can use? The other middleware we can use is the express.json. Use express.json. In the similar way, as we were sending the text from the front end or postman, right? It will identify the text and it will convert it to text. What if now we are sending a JSON data? What if we are sending a JSON data? We all know what is JSON data in the objects key value pair, right? What if now we are sending a JSON data? So now it will identify, it is like a middleware. That is why we have put this in the top of the server. Key whatever the request will come, go to this particular middleware, and they will check. Express will now what it will do, it will convert or it will pass the data into JSON if we are sending it in a JSON. Okay, and now we can just go to any of these route and we can get that particular JSON data. So how we can check that? Let's let's test this in the postman again. So let's open the postman again. Postman. So we were on the 3000. We were using the post. So if I click on send, you will hitting the post pen in the browser. I am getting the I am sending a text data. Okay. So as you can see, we were sending a data body. We choose raw, and now we chose the text form. Now let's send the data in the JSON form. So in the JSON, click on JSON. Okay. And now, as we know, we send the data in the JSON form. Let's send data in the JSON form. How do we send it? Any name? Akshat Jain. Okay. This is the JSON data, right? This is the JSON data, like a key value pair, right? Like a key value pair. Let's send this. Let's send this. And let's see what we will get in the console. So I'm clicking on send, and let's see. I'm getting an empty object. Why is that? I'm getting an empty object because I think I have not started the my server again. So node index.js. Okay. So we click on send again. Now, if you can see, I am getting the data. I am getting the data. Why? Because I have used the middleware known as the express.json. And we always use the middleware. How we can how we can initialize a middleware in app? By using the app.use. By using the app.use. Okay, so these are the built-in middlewares to parse our data.json. Okay, we can create our own middleware that we are going to learn how we can create our own middlewares. Like, what if the request is coming? Now I want to authenticate that request. What if a request that is coming? Now I want to authenticate that request. Okay, whether that request, the particular person, that is the particular person whomsoever the person is asking the data in the request, whether that particular person is authenticated to get the data or not. So we are going to use some middleware that will authenticate that particular person. If he is authenticated, then we can send the data back. Okay, in the same way. Okay, so now you can see we are sending data in the JSON from the postman, and we have used the express.json. What if I comment this? What if I comment this? Let's see. Let's run our server again. Node index.js. Okay, and now click on send again. You will see a empty object. You will see a empty object. Why? Because right now it is not able to parse it in a JSON format. Why? Because we are not using a middleware here. Okay, so this is like a one middleware that we use to parse the JSON, and this is a very important middleware. The both are these are the very important middleware to use. Okay, and we should always use in the top of the index file, which means the before all the routes. Okay, because why? The request should come first onto these middlewares, and then after doing like their task, they can go to any of their particular routes. Okay. Okay, let's discuss some common middleware that we use while building. Body parser is one such middleware that we have discussed. Okay, when you receive a request with a payload, example form data JSON object, the data is sent in the body of the request. We already know, we covered that. However, by default, express.js does not parse the request body automatically. Body parser, that is one middleware, will fills the gap by parsing the body content and making it accessible via request.body. Okay, so see, now this is the by default Express gives us. Okay, express.json is the by default. Express gives us the middle, this particular middleware that we can use to parse our data back to JSON. Okay, we have some other libraries also that works as a middleware. So body parser is one such library. What we can do is we can install this library. As you can see, npm install body parser, and then you can you can import this particular library. So we all know we do that with the require method, and now you will parse this. So app.use body parser.json. As we have express.json, right? Express.json in the similar way, we can use this particular library body parser.json, and we can get the data as similar as that. Okay, this is what we are doing here exactly. It's just we are using the by default express.json. Okay, we can use the other libraries also like the body parser. Tomorrow we are going to cover other. In the next lectures, we are going to cover more middlewares like the course. What is this course middleware? What are the other middlewares? Like a course is a very important, so we will discuss what is course policy, how we can what is course middleware. So we are going to learn all those middlewares in the next lectures, and then we will start to cover our databases also. Till then, goodbye.